Good morning. Today we're going to go over how to solve one-step, two-step, and multi-step equations. So we're going to get started first with the one-step equations. I am using the problems from Kuda software. I will leave the link below. So let's get started. So question 1 says we want to solve 26 equals 8 plus v. The reason this is called a one-step problem is because it only takes one step to find the answer. So notice how we only have one variable, and that's the v. So we want to somehow get the v by itself, and the only thing that's in the way is that 8. This 8 right here. This 8 is positive, so to move it over to the left side of the equal sign, we want to subtract it away because we want to do the opposite sign. So since 8 is already positive, if I subtract it away, notice how positive 8 minus 8 will equal 0, which is what we wanted. But we do have to make sure that what we do on the left side or the right side, it must match. So if I subtract 8 from the right side of the equal sign, then I gotta do it to the left side as well, just so that it matches. So again, this becomes 0, so we can cross that off. And all we have to do is solve this equation. So 26 minus 8 becomes, so if you want to borrow from the tens place, becomes a 1. Then we'll bring this over. So we'll have 16 minus 8, which is 8. We'll bring down the 1. And so we'll have 18 equals, and then we bring down the variable that was left over, equals v. So we found out that v equals 18. And if you ever want to check your work, you just want to substitute this value into the original problem, and we'll see that the right side of the equation will end up equaling the left side. So if I rewrite the original equation, 26 equals 8 plus v, since v equals 18, I'm going to substitute this value into that. So I will get 26 equals 8 plus 18. And again, if you want to solve this, and if you want to do it on the side, you'll see that you want to add the ones place value first. 8 plus 8 is 16. And then the tens place, 1 plus 1 is 2. So as you can see, we end up getting 26 equals 26, which is correct. Okay, so let's do another one. Okay, the next equation says, let's do a harder one. So we have, okay, question 11 says negative 104 equals 8x. So the previous question we were adding or subtracting. So in this equation is actually a product because of this right here. So 8 and x are together by multiplication. It's just that little dot is invisible, but again, you want to use the opposite operation. So the opposite of multiplication is division, and you want to divide by the coefficient, and a coefficient is the number in front of your variable, which is, in this case, it's 8. So we want to divide both sides by 8. And again, you have to match both sides of the equation. So if I divide by 8 on this side, I got to do it to this side. So by doing so, notice how 8 divided by 8 equals 1. So we'll have x by itself. So if I bring that down, it'll be 1x. And then we have to solve this quotient. So negative 104 divided by positive 8. So a negative number divided by positive number will give us a negative number. So no matter what, we know our answer will be negative, but we do have to solve this. So if you want to write it down here. 104 divided by 8. So you want to take it step by step. 8 goes into 1 0 times. So now you want to take it to 10. 8 goes into 10 one time. And 1 times 8 is 8. We're going to subtract that away. You will have a 2. Bring down the last digit. And 8 goes into 24 3 times. And 3 times 8, or 8 times 3, is 24. So we will have a difference of 0, a remainder of 0. So negative 104 divided by positive 8, we'll get negative 13. You usually don't want to put that 1 there, but we can rewrite this as negative 13 equals x, or x equals negative 13. And again, if you want to check your work, the left side needs to equal the right side. So if I rewrite the original equation, I have negative 104 equals 8x. We just found out that x equals negative 13, so I'm going to plug this into here. So we'll have negative 104 equals 8. And again, this is a product, so I want to multiply times negative 13. So I'll break down the negative 104. A negative times a positive will equal a negative, so I'll just place it down here. Now we do have to calculate this, so I will do it right here. So we have 13 and 8, multiply that. So you want to do 8 times 3, which is 24, and then 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10. And again, I will get that 104, let me erase that, and that matches. So that's all. Okay, so that was the 1 step. Now let's go to the 2-step problems. So as you've noticed, 2-step problems mean it will take 2 steps to solve the answer. In the previous ones we just did, we either added or subtracted on one side or divided, and we got our answer. So let's go over to the next. Okay, so then for this one, we're going to do question 1. So question 1 says 6 equals a over 4 plus 2. Okay, so just like last time, we want to get rid of the variable. We want it to be alone. So first, you always want to get rid of whatever we're adding or subtracting before we end up dividing or multiplying. So in this problem, we want to get rid of this 2. But in this problem, our number is now positive, so we are going to do the opposite and subtract it away again because we want it to equal 0. Then I got to do it to this side as well. And if we solve this, positive 2 minus 2 will give us 0. We cross that off. And then over here, we'll have 6 minus 2, which equals 4. And then you want to bring down the rest of it. Okay, so that was the first step. Now the second step, the final step to solve A, you want to get rid of this 4. So notice how the 4 is it's 8 divided by 4. So again, you want to do the opposite operation. The opposite of division is multiplication, and we usually want to multiply by whatever number is down here. So we'll multiply it by the reciprocal, which is 4 over 1. So you got to do it at both sides. And by doing so, we'll be able to eliminate this. So if we wanted to reduce, we can divide by 4, which will get 1. Divide by 4, we'll get 1. Notice how now we'll have 8 by itself. And then we got to solve this side. So this 4, every whole number is always divided by 1. We just don't write it, but it is there. So you want to conduct this product. 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 1 is 1. You don't have to write over 1. Equals. And then we have to solve this. So A times 1 will be A. And then 1 times 1 is 1. But like I said, if your denominator ends up being 1, you don't have to write it. So we'll have A equals 16. So you can write it like that, or you can put 8 in front. It's the same thing. And again, it took us 2 steps. The first step was to subtract this away, and then the second step was to multiply by the reciprocal of that number, which is 4/1. So that's, again, it takes 2 steps to solve the answer. If you want to double check your work, which I always recommend, we start with the original problem. 6 equals a/4 plus 2. And so we want to substitute this value. So we said 16 equals a, so I'm going to plug in 16 right there. And we'll get 6 equals 16/4 plus 2. And then 16 divided by 4 is 4, and then I'm going to put plus 2. And if I solve 4 plus 2, I will get 6. And again, this matches this. So it's correct. Okay, let's do one more. We'll do a harder one. Okay, the question 12 says 144 equals -12 times x plus 5. Okay, so for this one, you need to know about your distribution. So this is how you would do it. So you want to put down the left side. Actually, okay, so we can distribute this out like this. Or, because this is a product between -12 times this sum, we can actually just divide it away. So let's do that rather than distributing, because that's extra work. So we're going to divide by everything. So -12. Okay. And then we got to do it to both sides. So let me erase this. Okay, 12. So 144 divided by -12. Positive divided by negative will be a negative. And 144 divided by 12 is 12. And the reason we did this was because -12 divided by -12 is +1. So that's why you always want to divide by the same number and the same sign to get 1. And we are left with this sum, which is x plus 5. The reason I removed the parentheses was because we no longer needed it since we got rid of the -12. And so that was the first step. Then the last step would be, again, since there's nothing in here, all we have to do is get rid of this, the +5. I am adding 5 to the right, so I need to make sure I subtract it away to both sides. So this goes away because it equals 0. We are left with x equals. Now, when both of your numbers are negative or positive, we technically end up adding the numbers together. So if this wasn't there, 12 plus 5 is 17. However, because they are both negative, and I start with a negative and I am adding a more negative number, my final answer needs to be negative as well. So x equals -17. Again, if you want to check your work, let's do that. So we rewrite the original equation. X plus 5. I'm going to plug this value into here. So I will have 144 equals -12 times the sum of -17 plus 5. Okay. So I'm running out of space. How do we calculate this? So now in this instance, we have a negative and we have a positive number. So when that happens, when the signs are opposite of each other, we will technically be subtracting the numbers. 17 minus 5 is 12. However, because I do have more negatives, notice how I have 17 negatives and only 5 positives, that means that I will have a negative as my answer. Again, only because I have more negatives, so I will have more negatives at the end when I do this. And then we have, so now we want to do this product. 144 equals, okay, so a negative times a negative always equals a positive. And then a 12 times 12 is 144. And so again, it matches. So our answer is x equals negative 17. Okay, we'll do the last one, which is the multi-step, meaning it takes multiple steps to get to our answer. So in this one, we're gonna try to do, let's do a challenging one. Let's do question 3, which states 8x minus 2 equals negative 9 plus 7x. So for here, notice how we have the same variable on the left and the right. We have an x here, we have an x here. So you want to add like terms. So what that means is whatever looks similar to each other, you want to add them. So this one has an x, so you want to add the 7 and the 8 somehow, and then somehow get these two together because they are just numbers without variables. So if I want to get this over here, we're going to use the same technique as before. If I'm adding a positive 7x over here, then I'm going to subtract it away to get it to this side. But if I do it to here, I got to subtract it away on the left side. And then since I am getting all the x's on the left side, then I want all my numbers on the right side of the equal sign. So then I also want to get rid of the 2. I'm subtracting the 2 on the left, so I make sure that I add to get rid of it. And I do it to the right side as well. So now we're going to solve. Positive 8x minus 7x. Think of this as just a normal subtraction problem. See it as 8 minus 7, which is just 1. So that means we'll have 1x left over. So just 1x. Negative 2 plus a 2, that equals 0. So we can cancel that out. Equals, we can solve negative 9 plus 2. Again, we do have more negatives than positives. So when the signs are opposite, we're going to subtract. We'll get 7. And again, because we do have more negatives, I need to make sure that I place the negative there. And then because these are opposite signs, but the same number, same variable, they do equal 0. So we can cancel that out. And again, we don't want to put the 1 there. It's unnecessary. So technically, it's x equals negative 7. And that was it. So if you want to solve, you can plug it back in like we've been doing. So 8x minus 2 equals negative 9 plus 7x. But notice now that we have 2 variables on the left and right, so I need to make sure that I substitute this negative 7 into here and into here. And again, when they're stuck together like that, it is a product. We're multiplying, so this means 8 times x, which is negative 7, minus 2 equals negative 9 plus 7 times x, again, which is negative 7. So this product right here, I have a positive and a negative. Positive times a negative is a negative. 8 times 7 is 56. And then I bring down the rest. Positive times a negative is a negative. And 7 times 7 is 49. So we have to make sure that these will equal each other. Okay, so in this instance, the left-hand side, notice how both our numbers are negative. So like I said, when the signs are the same, you technically end up adding the 2, which is 58, but because they are both negative, I need to make sure that I place this here. Again, they are both negative, so my final answer will be negative, and 9 plus 49 is 58, and that equals each other, so we did it correctly. So our answer truly is x equals negative 7. Okay, we'll do one more. So let's do, I'll do question 20, which says, this is a long one. So we have -5 times 1 minus 5x. Oh goodness, I'm not gonna have space. Let me rewrite this. Okay, so -5 parentheses 1 minus 5x plus 5 parentheses -8 x minus 2 equals -4x 8x. Okay, so let's see, what would be the easiest way? So I see from the right side of the equal sign, I can add like terms because both of these have 1x. So I can add those together. And then as far as this side, we'll have to distribute, yeah, the -5 and the +5. So we'll start with this side first. Equals. Okay, so my final answer will have an x. Since both of these are negative, like I said, when their signs are the same, you end up adding them. 4 plus 8 is 12. Because they were both negative, my answer will be negative. Now on this side, I want to make sure that I distribute this number on the outside to each term inside the parentheses. So I want to make sure that I multiply the -5 to the 1, and then I multiply it to the -5x. And then the same goes over here. So this is how it goes. So -5 times 1 is -5. -5 times -5x. Negative times a negative makes a positive. And then 5 times 5 is 25x. All right, so over here we have a +5 times the first term, which is -8x. Positive times a negative is a negative. And 5 times 8 is 40. So we'll have 40x there. +5 times the last term, -2. Positive times a negative is a negative. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, so we just distributed everything. So again, now we want to add like terms. So let's try to simplify first on the left-hand side of the equal sign. I can add these two together because they are both numbers. And then I will add these two together because they both have the variable x. So we are adding like terms. I will do these first. So notice how they're both negative. So my answer will be negative. When the signs are the same, we end up adding. 5 plus 10 is 15. Okay, we did that. Now I want to do these two. So they're opposites, positive and a negative. The signs are opposite. I'm going to end up subtracting. So I will grab the bigger number, 40 minus 25 is 15x. However, because I do have more negatives, I have 40 negatives compared to 25 positives, then I will have a negative left over, -15. Okay, equals, and then the right side, -12x. We're almost done. So we need 2 more steps. So again, I want the x by itself, but this is in the way and this is in the way. Always get rid of any sums or differences. So I'm going to get rid of this one first before I get rid of this one. So I am subtracting the 15 on the left, so I got to make sure I do the opposite. Now I'm going to add to the left, but also to the right. I'll put it over here. Since that has an x and that one doesn't. And then might as well, I'm going to put this one over here so that I can have the x's on one side. I do want to get this one over. So -12x, opposite sign, but the same amount. So I'm going to put positive over here. Okay, so this will end up being 0, which is what we wanted. This one right here, so if we, again, the signs are opposite, so we're technically going to subtract. So 15 minus 12 is 3. Bring down the x. I do have more negative than positive, so I will have the -3 left over. So -3x. Over here, this becomes 0. I have positive 15 left over. I don't have to put this, it's unnecessary. We can always just assume that a number is positive when there's no other sign here. The last step would be to now get rid of the -3. Again, this is a product, so I want to divide. I'm going to copy exactly as it says, the -3 to both sides. By doing so, we will get a positive 1, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we'll get rid of it. We'll have x, 1x, but we don't have to put the 1, x equals. Now a positive divided by negative is negative. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So our answer is x equals -5. So we can plug this in to our original problem, which will take long, but let's just do it. So we said that x equals -5. So I'm just going to erase all of this. Okay, I'm just gonna grab another color. Okay, let's work this out. So I'm gonna plug in this value into every x that I see, okay? So I'm gonna have -5 parentheses 1 minus. If you wanna just do the product already, well, I guess let me write it down. So -5 times a -5. Okay, so I'm gonna make this into a square bracket since I do have parentheses within. Square bracket, -5. Oh, I'm gonna run out of space. Okay, so for this one, we can just combine and then plug in. We said that that would become a -12x, and then the x is equal to -5. Okay, so always solve what's inside the parentheses first. So you want to do -5 times a -5. A negative times a negative makes a positive, and you can see right now. So notice how I draw a negative first, and I draw another negative. Notice how that makes a positive. And then 5 times 5 is 25. Plus 5, and again, we want to work this out. So a negative times a negative is a positive. 8 times 5 is 40. That's positive 40 minus 2. Okay, so over here, negative times a negative makes a positive, and 12 times 5 is 60. Okay, so let's keep working inside the parentheses or the square brackets now. So you have -5, I'm gonna just turn it into a parenthesis. 1 plus 25 is 26, plus 5. 40 minus 2 is 38, equals 60. Okay, so now we gotta figure this out. So we have negative times a positive. That's negative. But how would we figure out this? So there is a quick mental math trick that you can do. We can multiply by place value. So notice how this 26, we have 2 tens, which is 20. If 20 times 5 is 100, and 5 times 6 is 30, the sum of 100 and 30 is 130. So 5 times 26 is 130. And we'll do the same on this side. So plus, since both of these are positive, I know that I will be adding, again, using place value. So I have 3 tens, which is 30. So 30 times 5 is 150. So keep that in mind, 150. Now 5 times 8, that's 40. So if I just add those partial products, we will get 190. Okay, equals 60. Okay, so notice how we do have a negative and a positive, and that this number, the positive, is actually bigger. So if I were to rewrite this, we'll see that it looks like a familiar problem. So if I write this in front, it's positive, so 190, and it's negative. Notice how it just becomes a normal subtraction problem, one that we see all the time. And then if we solve this difference, we will see that we get we'll get 60. And it checks itself. So our answer is x equals -5. Okay, so again, I will leave the documents, the problems that I used below. I used it from Kuta software. If you guys want to practice on your own, I recommend so. And the last pages of the Kuta software do include the answer. So if you guys want to work it out and check your answer, you can do so. Please comment, subscribe. I will be posting more videos. But yeah, give me any recommendations of what you want to see. I would be happy to show you guys. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.